Today I'm going to share with you a simple technique to create seamless, clean and beautiful shadows in Photoshop. Not always drop shadow would work unless you want to make the object hover. Sometimes we have to create and paint the shadows. It is easier than you think. So without any further ado, let's get started. Back in the magical world of Photoshop, and if you wish to follow along using these assets, which you should, check the links in the description to download them. So here we have a blank new document. On top of that, I'm just going to drag and drop this box right here. Let us resize it to give it a little bit of space for the shadows. Now you can make the document bigger, up to you. Now this is already a transparent, isolated photo of a box. If it weren't, you could have just masked it out. Not a big deal. Just keep in mind that you have the background and the box separate. The next thing we need to do is to create a base shadow, and how well you do this is going to determine whether it's going to make or break the deal. So just under the box layer, I'm going to create a blank new layer by clicking on this button, and let us name this Shadow 1. All right. Now simply select the polygonal lasso tool. If you're in the lasso tool group, just click and hold and you'll find the polygonal lasso tool, and then start painting or creating the shadow. So I'm going to start right about there. Have a look at where the light is falling. The light is coming from the right hand side, and that is why this area is brighter, and also this area at the top is brighter. So from the top right, somewhere here, so accordingly create the shadow. So I'm going to keep it possibly this way and maybe create a shadow like so. This looks reasonable, and we're going to join it like so. Now let us fill this with black. With the foreground color black, if it's not black and white already, you can always press D to set the foreground and the background color to defaults. And now with the foreground color black, press Alt Backspace or Option Delete. Now press Ctrl or Command D. Now when you zoom out, this should look about right. From here, we are going to fine tune it, but if you think of it like a 2D cartoon, this should look right to you once you zoom out. Now let's zoom back in, press Ctrl or Command 0 to fit it to the screen. Now we need to adjust the blur. As the shadows get further, the edges of the shadows get blurrier, right? So with the shadow layer selected, before applying any blur, let's go to Filter, Convert for Smart Filters, hit OK. Why? So that we can change the values later if we want it. Now let's go to Filter, not Blur, but Blur Gallery, and then Tilt Shift. This allows us to apply a gradual blur. Now you can rotate it. Now as you are rotating this, you can hold the Shift key to rotate it at perfect angles. 90 degrees fine. The blur is going to start at the solid line and it's going to continue increasing till the dotted line. So I'm just going to increase the blur a lot like so, and you can control how the blur flows. All right. Now this looks pretty much amazing right here. I'm just going to increase the amount a bit more. Let's see how this looks. 164. That's perfect for now. You can always change this later. Hit OK. Now this shadow of course is too dark. There is one more thing you must have noticed about shadows. As it goes further, it fades too. So with the shadow layer selected, click on this button to create a mask, and then let us pick a gradient from white to black. And I'm going to draw a gradient like this. Now this is a hard fade. By the way, as you're dragging the gradient, you can also hold the Shift key to make sure it is in a straight line. Now you need to be holding it first and then pressing the Shift key and holding it to make sure it's accurate. Let us expand it even more. This looks pretty amazing. Now let's click on the layer, press Ctrl or Command 0 to set it all up. One more essential thing to keep in mind, that as you are using the gradient tool, you want to make sure dither is checked. Otherwise, there can be banding issues. Now as the shadows stretch, other lights begin to come in there as well. So we need to erase the shadows slightly from the corners. But we don't want to disturb this mask. So how do we have two masks for the same layer? We have learned about this in previous videos. With just that one layer selected, press Ctrl or Command G to put it in a group. Now one advantage of the group is you can create another mask of this. So with the group selected, click on this button to create a mask. And by the way, you can name this Shadow. Select the mask, take the brush, take a soft round brush, and with black as the foreground color, just start erasing. You can even control the flow. Keep it at 100, keep it at 20. Slowly and gradually erase the extras like so. Do a very soft erasing from around the corners and have a look at this. It's already pretty close. Now to make it even more realistic, and this is an optional step, you can create a slight reflection. With the box layer selected at the top, let us press Ctrl or Command J, and this one can be your reflection. Let us select the Move tool, press Ctrl or Command T and right click on it and choose Flip Vertical. This should be like a reflection. Let's bring it right about there. Now I recommend keeping it slightly on the inside because we are going to be blurring it anyway and we don't want to see any gaps. Hit enter or return. Press Ctrl or Command 0 and now let's go to edit and perspective warp. And all we have to do is to drag a rectangle like this and put the points along the four corners of the box. I'm going to do a super quick and inaccurate job right here. I should have done it before so that we could see the whole box, but that's fine. It doesn't have to be very, very accurate for this one. Once you're done, go to the warp tab right here and then you can move it as you like. You want to make sure it aligns properly. Other side, we are going to erase it anyway, but if you want to keep it, this is how you do it. There you go, maybe a little more. Now for extra realistic approach, you can also do this. You can also do this one. There you go. That's a nice reflection. Hit enter or return. Now since this is a smart object, you can always go back by double clicking on perspective warp and adjust it as you wish. Now since we have a white floor, all that the reflection is doing is darkening it. Now what is the blend mode which darkens gradually and nicely? Multiply, right? So select the reflection layer, change the blend mode from normal to multiply. And there you have it. Look at the beauty right there. Let us not forget we have to blur it too. The further the reflection gets, the more blurrier it gets. So let's go to filter and again blur gallery and tilt shift. This time let's rotate it this way. I'm just going to keep the reflection on this side and the blur starts, let's say right here and goes till this. Let's control the blur. You can zoom in and control where the blur starts. If it doesn't look right to you, you can always move this. Oh, that looks very much nicer. So we can do something like this. Once you're happy, hit OK right here. And there you have it. And of course, decrease the opacity. So I'm going to keep it at about 28. This works fine. And then we need to create a mask by clicking on this mask button. Take the brush and just get to work. Erase the extras. So I don't want it in this area. So I'm going to erase it from there. Only in the shadow areas mostly. Now that looks fantastic. But is it done? Not really. There's one more layer of shadow we need to create. And this shadow is the most crucial. It actually places the object on the surface. If we notice things in the real world, which we should do more often for inspiration, LED screens, you would notice that if you look at an actual photo, an actual object, there is that one layer of shadow right here that actually joins the subject with that of the surface on which it is on. There is this larger shadow, that's fine. You can consider multiple layers of shadows. But have a look at this one. This one is always there. This hard shadow, this joins and actually places the subject on the surface, on the object. Similarly, we need to create a close shadow for this one as well. So just under the box layer, let us create a brand new layer and let's name this one Shadow 2. Select the brush tool and zoom in. And all you have to do is to just dab right here. That's it. Hold the Shift key and dab right here. You can continue this. You don't have to be absolutely accurate and straight lines. You can keep it slightly zigzag too for more realistic approach. Keep holding the Shift key and just dabbing like so. See the zigzag? That's making it even more realistic. Don't forget the other side. This area already has that shadow, so it's going to work right here. So I'm just going to merge it like so. And there you go. That is so fantastic. You can decrease the opacity for this one, but I think this is fine. It just joins it so nicely. Now you can actually stop right here. And to be honest, there is no end to it. You can keep going on and on. But for this one, we are going to create a studio clean background and that's pretty easy. So all you need to do is to choose the gradient tool right here. Choose a white to black gradient. It doesn't matter right now. And let us drag in a gradient like this. Now what we want this new background to do is only darken stuff. So change the blend mode from normal to multiply because it was already white. Let's take it all the way to the top like this. And this is a fine adjustment. Now you can change the colors according to your wish. Let's double click right here. Let's set it to dark gray is fine. Hit OK. And for this one, double click right here. Light gray is fine. So we're going to keep it right about there. And you can adjust the colors at any point in time. Now this looks really, really nice. But for even more lighting effects, how can we forget our favorite, curves? So just above the box layer, click on the adjustment layer icon and let us choose curves. Let's take this slider to the left like so. Select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. We want this curve to only affect this box. So hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two. You can also do it from the curves properties. Let's take the brush with white as the foreground color. Just dab at the top for a nicer lighting effect. Now you can always adjust these later, but this is fantastic. So I'm going to go back right here and adjust it. This may be too much. That's nice. And for lighting effects on the floor as well, just above this gradient fill layer, click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves. Again, it's our favorite. Let's take this slider to the left like so. And for this one, select the mask, pick the gradient tool, and this time let us pick a radial gradient. Pick a gradient from white to black. By the way, if you pick the first one, which is foreground to background, you can always press X to toggle it. Right now it is white to black. And let us drag something like so. By the way, you can squish it and make it rounder. That's up to you. I'm going to keep it this way. Whoa. That looks great. That looks great, doesn't it? Let's keep it this way. And, really, there is no end to it. So that's how to create seamless, clean, and beautiful shadows in Photoshop. The important thing to understand is to learn when to stop. Let us do a quick little recap. The first thing we need to do is to have the box and the background separate. We have a white background right here. Next, we need to fill in a base shadow like this. You can introduce some blur and some masking to make it more realistic. On top of that, you can introduce some reflection, and do not forget some additional shadows that joins the object to the surface. See that layer of shadow right there? On top of that, it's up to you to create different kinds of backgrounds, some lighting at the top, at the bottom. That's optional. So that's all there is to it. I hope this video helped you, and if it did, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss any other future tips, tricks, or tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.
We're up here on cloud nine.